Hello and welcome to the Frequency channel. Today we're going to do something a little different. I often come on here and guide you through a meditation or a breath work, but recently I have been wanting to talk more as I've had more conversations with friends and family over this holiday season and listen to people's struggles, people's accomplishments this year. I thought this might be a good opportunity to share or expand on the 5 things this year taught me about myself. I recently made a post about this in short form and it was received well, surprisingly. So I thought I'd give a little more context to each, but I want to start by saying this is not advice and I don't have it all figured out. This is just me sharing what this year quietly taught me, in case it helps you feel a little less alone in your own process. This year didn't come with big wins or neat conclusions. For me, it came with slowing down and sitting with the discomfort and listening more closely than I ever have before, which isn't easy. So let's begin. Number 1 was I don't need to earn my rest. This one was hard for me, and I'm still learning. For a long time, rest felt like something I needed to justify or earn. Like I could only slow down after I did enough in my personal life, in my work life. This year showed me the opposite. My body was burnt out from many years of pushing and striving and overworking, telling myself that it wasn't enough, that if you just finish this little thing, then maybe you can rest. This year forced me to pause, to be present with many things, to grieve and to arrive. Work was often left to the side, and I was forced to be with myself, to care for myself, to be present with those around me. And it has changed my perspective. I don't need to earn my rest. I am deserving and worthy of rest. And similar to anyone who is a gym goer, most of our gains are done on the rest day. Yes, you need to show up, and yes, you need to put in the work in the gym, but your rest days are equally important, because if you continue to strive and lift and hustle, you can't grow. You can't grow muscle. You need that rest day. So, though I've known this for a long time, it is hard because slowing down sometimes feels like we're doing nothing and giving ourselves permission to not dismiss our lives, but to honor ourselves. And I think in a culture, at least in North America, a culture that celebrates hustle, celebrates striving for more, overachieving. It's almost a pride thing when you're so busy and you don't have time for yourself. I lived that world. I felt important because I was so busy. And the ironic part of that was I was denying myself the things that I used to love and needed. I don't need to earn my rest. I'm actually more productive because of it. Number 2, what I once tried to quiet within myself is now what I listen to. Whew. There have been parts of me I've spent years trying to override. My sensitivity, my intuition, and my inner voice. This year has shown me many times how intuitive I am, how I need to stop fighting it, how I need to start trusting it, because I was presented with many situations where my intuition was screaming, and sometimes I listened to it and the outcome was great. And sometimes I ignored it, and I had to learn that lesson, and it showed me gently that I have always known that my gut feeling has always been right. It's funny when you stop fighting your intuition and you lean into it, that inner voice, things become less chaotic. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it. There are lots of things that my intuition has shown me or brought to my attention, and I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to accept it. And that's a hard truth that, when it comes to relationships or life or people dying, we don't want to accept some of that when we know it's about to happen, or maybe we need to leave a situation or leave a career or make a change. And our intuition is telling us, hey, like things are no longer aligned, or this might happen, and you want to ignore it because you're not ready to let go or you're not ready to move on. And it's hard. That doesn't diminish your feelings. But generally, when we look back on situations and we had that gut feeling or we had that sensation that, something's not quite right, leaning into that can actually create more guidance, more grounding within yourself when you start to trust yourself, whether you agree with what your intuition is telling you or not. And I used to think I was highly sensitive because of this. My sensitivity. Oh, you're just overreacting, or oh, you're maybe just projecting past traumas on, or maybe this is a fear. But intuition is generally quiet. Sometimes it's loud. Mine can be very loud, but it's generally a sense of you know something without knowing how you know it. That's at least how I interpret it. Leaning into your intuition doesn't always give you all the answers, but it shows you where you need to pay more attention. And if you at least give yourself that trust to acknowledge that your intuition may be right and you may need to make a decision or a change, having that guidance at least can be something you can fall back on, even if you decide to push forward or proceed with whatever you've been warned against. Or maybe your intuition tells you to move towards something and you are fearful and it's in the back of your mind and it keeps picking at you. You can always lean into that. Even if you feel like you're not ready, sometimes you have the option to wait, to prepare yourself. And sometimes the universe removes things from your life so that you are forced into it. All I can say is at least listen to your intuition and then move forward with whatever decision you make because it's generally not wrong. Number 3, my softness created more expansion than hustle ever did. And I think we kind of touched base on this a little bit, but most of us, we've grown up in a culture where hustle and grind and self sacrifice is almost celebrated. You are a hero for doing such a thing. Everyone's doing it. And I lived that life. I put myself basically in the ground for trying to accomplish everything and tying my worth to my accomplishments. I used to believe that my efforts had to be forceful to be effective, and this is something that I'm still working on, because the idea that I can be soft and intentional with my actions instead of just trying to accomplish all the things. I can be intentional with my actions moving forward to accomplish my goals instead of being a perfectionist and trying to do 100 things, knowing that the one thing that I need to do is enough. This year has created opportunity for me to soften. It has been an interesting process. I can honestly say that I have tried to claw my way back into productivity. And if you talk to my friends, they will say you're still in that mode. And I can agree that, I hyper focus in and I strive for more, doing more. But I am also trying to allow myself the rest. And I'm also trying to be very intentional with what I focus forward instead of trying to check off all the boxes, do the whole to-do list. My therapist and I had this conversation one time, and though I've made a lot of changes in this year, changing careers. I've had a lot of grief this past year, year and a half, and rewrite my beliefs, my programming. And my therapist said this to me, and she said, "Okay, that's great." She said, "You've made lots of changes, but the energy is still the same. We're still attaching our value and our worth to our output." And she said, "Have you ever considered that if you are not soft enough, maybe not in your feminine energy long enough to receive, how do you expect to reap the benefits of your output?" And it blew my mind in thinking, yeah, like, there are lots of this year where I have not paused long enough to reap the benefits of my output, and not paused in gratitude, but just paused in rest. The moments where I was soft and allowed things to come in were the moments that I could see where my efforts were effective. And this is kind of a play back and forth. I do not have this one figured out completely. I've had moments of softness this year that has brought in unexpected opportunities and unexpected findings or earnings. All I can say with this one is softness isn't a weakness. If you allow yourself the rest related to number one, but if you allow yourself softness, knowing that what you're putting out is enough and your value is not tied to that, and sitting with that energy, things will come back to you. You have to be open to that receiving if you are putting so much out. And if you are not pausing long enough to be intentional with your output, then you're just going to burn yourself out. Number four, I don't always need a plan. I just need to make the next honest step and listen within, relating to intuition. This one has been a struggle for me. I typically have always had a plan. I went from high school to university to a career for 13, 14 years. I was at the same office. And the last couple years, I've made so much change, more to help heal myself and alleviate the burnout, to find myself again. But the interesting part is when you turn inward and you look for yourself, sometimes the world around you becomes uncertain. You start to see things that you didn't see before, or, you no longer accept either mistreatment or judgment that you once were allowing without knowing. It's not it's not easy to have the full picture when you don't necessarily know who you're becoming. I think that's been the hardest one, but as I've turned inward, and if I sit with myself long enough, if I'm soft with myself, the answers arise. This year has taught me that needing the full picture has kept me stuck. I have struggled for a lot of this year to try and find where I'm headed. And like I said, the only clarity that I ever get is when I'm actually still long enough. The key is long enough to allow the answers to arise within. And the thing is I don't generally have this big, beautiful image of where I'm going. It's just the next step. It's leaning into the intuition of what is my next step, whether it's in business, in personal life, with yourself. I'm going to give you an example. So, an opportunity came up, and I was in Bali for a month taking my meditation teacher training, and I had zero plans of doing that, but because I took the time to sit within, I was like, I think I'm supposed to do something that is calming and peaceful, and what does that look like? And the opportunity kind of presented itself because I had listened to what I really wanted. I wanted a life that was more peaceful and slower and more aligned. The universe has a funny way. I This past year has shown me that I'm very much not in control like I thought I was. And Most of my plans have gone out the window. And like I said, when I listen inward or actually allow the universe or God to guide me, there's way more certainty in that. This doesn't eliminate fear, however, and it doesn't remove not knowing everything, but you are still moving. You're still taking a step forward, which is progress. Okay, number 5. True strength came from sitting with discomfort, not pushing it away. This one has been a lifelong journey for me. I have been always told that I am strong. You're so strong. You're resilient. And the interesting part is, I never felt it. I felt like I had been put in situations that maybe appeared that I was strong because I was still around. But in all honesty, I think I had shut down many, many years ago as a protection because a lot of what I had gone through or had experienced wasn't safe to feel, or I didn't have the capacity to do it. And this past couple years, specifically again this year, I've been working more and more on trying to allow those emotions to come up and sit with them. And that has been the hardest thing I've ever done. That is true strength. Feeling the emotions, whether when they arise or as they come, instead of pushing them down, distracting yourself, burying yourself in work. I used to do that a lot to avoid feeling, because if I could allow myself to feel, I was scared of what would all come up. Feeling is uncomfortable, especially when you have hardships to feel. Feeling's great when things are joyful and exciting and playful, but generally with those amazing emotions, you have to be able to experience the uncomfortable ones, the ones that we deem bad, which aren't. They're just the other spectrum. And, we're here to experience all emotions. And a lot of times, yeah, things aren't safe, or you're not in a safe position to feel what you're feeling. And so, as a coping mechanism, some of us shut down. We bury ourselves in work, or some people use alcohol and drugs, and we don't want to feel. And then life continually presents itself to bring up those emotions so that you have space to feel them, or that you are forced to feel them. And until you're ready to sit with that and allow those emotions to move through you, it can be even just as challenging because you're then in a constant state of discomfort. All I can say is that this year taught me that strength isn't bypassing pain or rushing healing. It's by staying present with the things that feel unresolved, uncomfortable, and incomplete. The hardest part is sitting with what is without needing to fix it and just allow it to be there. As you move through that, I can promise you that things feel lighter. It doesn't mean that the hurt and the pain or the discomfort doesn't still exist. It just doesn't hold you back anymore. So we'll end on that note. I think I've rambled long enough. All I can say is this is not advice. This is just my experience. I'm still learning. I do not have it all figured out. And I'm learning that that's okay. For the first time in my life, it's okay to not know the big picture. So if this year didn't give you clarity or closure or a perfect ending, you are not behind. Sometimes growth can look like listening more quietly, resting more deeply, and trusting that showing up is enough for now. You will figure it out. Thank you for listening this long. If you need some time for stillness, or you're curious about meditation, I have free meditations on my channel. I do have some breath work, which I'm hoping to do more of. I also have a 7-day digital detox workbook. It's not about cutting technology out of your life. It's actually about being more present with yourself and the people in your lives by becoming aware of your technology usage. We all live in a world where technology is used at work and in our lives. It's not about that. It's just being more mindful. So if that interests you, I will put the link in the comments. I'm sending you with all the love. This season is not always easy. And if this year feels unfinished, like you're struggling and things don't make sense, I just want you to know you're not alone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence and your practice this year. Namaste.